Get this, a French artist says he will destroy up to $45 million worth of art, including Rembrandt, Picasso, and Warhol pieces, if Wikileaks founder Julian Assange dies in prison, per Sky News. Andrei Molotkin told Sky News that he put a collection of pieces that had been donated to him into a 29-ton safe hooked up to 2 barrels, one containing an acid powder and the other containing an accelerator, which, when pumped into the safe, will create a reaction strong enough to destroy all its contents, CBS News writes.
The plan, called Dead Man's Switch, is reportedly supported by Assange's wife, Stella. Julian Assange's final appeal over extradition to the United States is set to take place later this month. The CIA is planning to invoke the state secret's privilege to block a lawsuit against them for allegedly spying on Americans who visited Wikileaks founder Julian Assange while he was living in Ecuador's embassy in London. Per The Dissenter, American journalists and lawyers claimed the CIA directed UC Global, a Spanish security company, to carry out a spying operation against Assange.
As this comes forward, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has voted to urge the United States and England to allow Assange to be free and return to Australia. Now, I gotta say, perhaps unsurprisingly, I love this story because I think that some of these art showdowns, and this hasn't been the first one, just a day or so ago, hundreds of protesters occupied the MoMA in New York. There have been protests at the Mona Lisa. There have been soup cans thrown on paintings, none of which cause any actual damage, but are intended to highlight the difference between how much attention is being paid to art objects versus human lives, and how much we seem to value and react to even the specter of an art piece being damaged as compared to thousands of people dying in various conflicts around the world that are preventable. So Julian Assange is a human life that is deeply valuable, but also additionally valuable because of the journalism that he did, which exposed so much wrongdoing on the part of our own government and the ways in which our government imperils other lives around the world. And so it's really setting up this interesting contrast. Which is more valuable to you? Journalism as an enterprise, Julian Assange as a human being, as someone who is loved by his family and his community, or $45 million worth of art, which obviously is beautiful in value. I'm an appreciator of art. I was an art history major. This is not about my subjective belief or desire to maintain and appreciate art, but about how much more I or another might appreciate the value of human lives or journalism as an enterprise. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty disparaging of activists throwing the soup cans at art and that kind of stuff. I don't support it, and I think all it calls attention to is kind of how ridiculous some of their antics are. Now, this is a different case because it's his art. He purchased it. He can do whatever he wants with it. Do I think it's going to be, maybe it's successful as a publicity stunt? It's not going to. No government is going to say, oh, we're not going to prosecute Assange or torture or kill him because you're threatening to destroy art. They don't care about that. But he is allowed to do it. I support any attention being called to Julian Assange's unfair treatment because, like you, I agree that he is a hero who engaged in journalism, who told us things we ought to have known about our own government spying on us, that he did not violate these laws. He claims he violated. He was a journalist. He published information he obtained. He did not obtain it illicitly. He did not commit the criminal action. This is no different than things the New York Times does and the Washington Post does, that journalists do all over the world, and that is usually celebrated and they get awards for it. And instead he went to prison, where he's been held in. He was first, under house arrest in the embassy, and now he's been in prison under horrible conditions. We hear from his brother and his wife. I think both have been on the show in the past, of the appalling conditions that are literally killing him. The U.S. government could simply, they could just back off this. They could pardon or commute, or they could just declare, he engaged in journalism and we've persecuted him enough and this is over. That's what Australia wants us to do. Australia being the country he's from, which is a close ally of the United States. It just seems so needless to continue persecuting this man, and I very much wish it would stop. I don't. I also like art, and I don't want to see it destroyed. But again, I believe ultimately in private property rights. It's his art. So if he wants to rig some kind of doomsday device to blow it up, we're doing a lot of doomsday devices on the show. If he wants a Russian space laser to nuke it from orbit,
Yeah, he's calling it a dead man switch. Yeah,
that's
look,
your
so he's an artist, right? So this really isn't a conversation about who doesn't respect art. I mean, this man who is doing this is himself an artist, and others. It looks like an art gallery owner from Milan also contributed to this project and donated a Picasso because of how much he was convinced to believe in it. After initially rejecting the idea, he said, you know what, I was convinced, and so I decided and offered to participate. He said, let's say I'm an optimist and I've lent it. If Assange goes free, I can have it back. Picassos can vary from 10,000 to 100 million, but I don't think it's the number of zeros that makes it more relevant when we're talking about a human life. That's from this Milan art gallery owner. And so I would like to know more about what pieces are actually being included in this collection. I think that if there are some recognizable pieces, that might draw even more public attention. When you protest at the Mona Lisa, people tend to care more than if you protest some lesser known work. And I do think that this is meaningful, not just because it's private art and people can do what they want with their private art.
Do the jackbooted thugs care that some artists are about to destroy their own work? Th're probably like, throw even more on the pile.
But no, I was saying is...
Light yourselves on fire, too. That's probably their perspective.
The Orkin Museum is public work. So it also is our work, all of our collective work, and our tax dollars are going to maintaining those institutions as well.
Oh, well, so we're getting down some
entitlements.
Pathways.
There's an argument that we have entitlements to those as well. But it's not, first of all, it's whether or not Assange dies, not whether he's released. That is the condition of the art being blown up, which I gotta say is a pretty low bar. We're not even talking about freeing the man. We're talking about, can you please just not kill him with these inhumane prison conditions, which should be in the interest of everybody, generally speaking. But also really asking the public the question. This isn't about direct pressure on the government, hoping that Joe Biden's sitting somewhere saying, oh gosh, gee, I really love art and therefore I'm going to let Assange go. It's about whether or not you can inspire more public pressure against the president. Are there going to be people who are suddenly made more aware of the fact that Assange is being held in these conditions, who are going to maybe choose to vote one way or the other because of something like this, because of the notoriety, the press around this? Are there people across the political spectrum like Tucker Carlson who have taken up the cause of Julian Assange, who will, again, want to bring the story to the forefront because it is being publicized in this specific kind of way? And I do think the central question of what the value of a man's life is. Are we really going to say that a human being is worth less than $45 million of oil paint and frame and canvas stretched? I think it really it throws into the foreground how easy it is to, frankly, diminish human life at a time where obviously we have something that's been described as plausibly a genocide going on in Gaza with over 27,000 people, 70% of whom are women and children, having been killed.
We continue to follow the story, and that's it for us for today. Tomorrow on Rising, the Fridays team will take over, and they will have a great show for you.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
See you later.
Take care.